We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Welcome to European E-Racing and the European E-Racing League, the premier NASCAR league on iRacing for European citizens. Tonight is time for our sixth run, of our Next Gen Series, which runs at Talladega Superspeedway, located in Alabama, in the United States of America. Talladega is the longest and fastest oval on our calendar, but also in the world at all, with the high banks of up to 33 degrees in the corners. The track opened up in 1969 and is 2.66 miles long, and the NASCAR record of 212 miles per hour in average is set by Billy Elliott in 1987. So it's couple of years ago. My name is Jonas Force, and I'm here at Essen Studio in Stockholm, Sweden, and I'll be later hand over to our friends this race spot that will do the in-game or in-sim commentating tonight. And then I'll be back with some interviews and post-race analysis, but let's take a lap around Talladega and I'll tell you what about this track that's kind of special here. You can see the guys running through there on the backstretch. So we will run with Jonas Gunnarsson from Team Superior, fast up and coming driver. So into the first corner here, you can see the banking. So around this track you need to keep your foot on the pedal all the way around this track, but when you're in traffic like he is here, you need to lift a little bit, and this can later in the race affect your fuel mileage. So when in traffic, if you want to save fuel and do a later pit stop, you can lift a little bit on the straightaways. Just be careful to not get passed by guys behind you that might try to pass you on the outside here. So the racing line here is to hug the yellow line on the inside all the way around and to run as fast as you possibly can. Friends are a benefit on this track because the more people you are in a line, the faster the car will go. And this car, the next gen car, has a lot of downforce and is kind of weak in horsepower, what we can see compared to older NASCAR generations like the 87 that we talked a little bit about. So if you want to do a pass here, you need to have friends with you. You need to be more in the pack in your line to go faster than the line inside. But also when you try to do an overtake here, you'll slow both lines down. So if you are in a pack that's fallen behind a couple of seconds and the guys in front are starting to fight each other, just line up on one line and you'll catch them in front of you. So a lot of strategy will play out here. On the fuel mileage, you want to have your friends around you as as many friends around you as you can. You see the three superior cars there working together, and that will be the key part here, and try to make the best out of your strategy tonight. Anyhow, once again, welcome back to the European E-Racing League. And last time we were on broadcast, you had Nicholas with you. He is in the production right now. We're starting our qualifying at 20 past 5, and then by then we will hand over to our friends at RaceBot. We race every other week on Sundays, and this, as we said, is our 6th race, and then we have 2 races left, one at the short track of Richmond and our finale at Charlotte Motor Speedway, another 1.5 miler. Anyhow, if you want to join the European E-Racing League, right now we're racing the next gen car. You need an iRacing subscription and be licensed in iRacing on ovals and 2,500 in iRating. So that's the requirements to run here. So this is a Premier League in Europe of oval racing. Anyhow, follow us on Instagram at European E-Racing, Twitch, the same address there, and on YouTube, and also on Facebook. But let's take a look at the highlights from the last race at Pocono.
E-Racing and the European E-Racing League, the premier NASCAR league for European citizens. Tonight it's time for the 5th round of our Next Gen series, which is run at Pocono Raceway, located in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, USA.
Tony Uberden very, very ready to push Daniel Solo to the lead right now. He's now in control of the field, waiting and making them wait a very long time indeed, but finally here's the gas and goes. And already has a couple of car lips on pretty much everybody right now. Uberden not able to help him in any way. Kevin Adam getting a lot of help here to the outside line, but they all form up on that outside, 3 wide through the middle, as you can see. Let's hope everybody gets through. When there's 2 cars formed on the outside like that, there's no way you're going to be able to do anything on your own. Look at that, Solo and Blinked got themselves 1 and 2, purely by pushing each other to the front. It's all changing very, very quickly, and I have to admit that there's a lot more pack racing going on than I was expecting. Oh, it's in the background. There is a car on its roof almost.
Lundberg.
Looks like Lundberg, who has gone, he's gone over and over and over again. Goodness gracious, that is a huge accident.
Yeah, it is going to be happening between Fournier and Lundberg here, right out of turn 3. I'm not sure what happened to Fournier. That just has a little bit of a wiggle and then just drags out to Lundberg, and these 2 collides, and then, yeah, this is ugly to watch.
Eric Blick swinging wide for Andre Solanda, who's going to lead his first laps of the day. That's very important, of course, Stefan, because that means 5 more points to Andre Solanda in the championship.
Yeah, Alexander Alitzson doing a very great job, and there we go, and now goes to the inside of the 140, that pushes him wide as well with a late turn in for the 24. Andre Cylinder, there we go, most definitely not happy about that.
Absolutely not. Down the inside with less than 4 laps to go at this stage. The 5 laps younger tyres have played into effect and played into the hands of Hagman and Brostrom. And I think for the first time all season long, we're going to have a repeat winner through the final turn here at Pocono. And after a very strategic race indeed, it's Marcus Hagman who's going to take the checkered flag first.
As you saw there, the team manager of 4C Sports, running for 4C Sports Academy here in this series, Marcus Hagman, winner of the last race, the leader of this race this season currently, before in front of Linus Brostrom from 4C Sports, and it's just a gap of 6 points, so that's barely nothing in this series. On third place, Eric Blix, Alkentech NHR by Neiman Racing on 612 points. After him, Kevin Adam is on 4th place, and the first non-Swede in our series right now. After that, Blix's teammate Daniel Solo, Alkentech by NHR by Nima Racing 2, rounds up the top 5 here. Norbert Leitner on 6th, Jonas Gunnarsson on 7th, that we had the opportunity to run with around a lap here at Talladega. Andreas Elander at 8th, also for the Neiman Racing team by Alkentech, or in the other way around. Alexander Arlson for 4C Sports on 9th, and Tony Ovinen for Prima Esports rounds up the top 10. And here is the rest of the list of your favorite drivers in the European E-Racing League. So in this race, friends are benefits, and I think that the larger teams and organizations will be benefited here. But we've also seen this kind of racing in the other cookie cutter tracks here. Alkentech NHR by Neiman Racing is the team leader here, and as you can see, there's no changes in positions after Pocono. 4C Sports in a 2nd place, about 50 points behind the Alkentech guys. So 4C Sports Academy on 3rd, Wannabe SRT Yellow is on 4th place, and on 5th place, Alkentech NHR by SimLab. So the top 5 is rounded up by 3 teams right now, or 3 organizations, divided into smaller groups of teams, since you're only allowed to run with 3 drivers for each team, and the 2 best finishing drivers are collecting points to the team's championship. And the system is works the same for the country championship, where the 2 best finishing drivers from each country collects points for their nation in the Nations Cup here. Sweden is on top right now before Hungary, then France, Spain and Poland on 5th. Czech Republic is on the 6th place, and Ireland on 7th, Finland on 8th, Switzerland is on 9th, and the top 10 is rounded out by the UK with 231 points here in the European E-Racing League. The drivers are competing about this nice prizes from Cooler Masters. Some coolers for the first prize, a case for the 2nd place, some fans for the 3rd place, and 4th and 5th place, some mouses and stuff. And from Logitech, this nice stuff, the Pro Series gaming headset and mouse for the winner, and a cloth gaming pad for 2 there. For the winner from Logitech. And here are the prizes again from Cooler Master. And also they're competing about 1,000 euros that will be distributed over the top 10 from Eason Studios. So right now we are looking into a short little commercial break before we will be back, before the handover to our friends at RaceBot. Welcome back, and it's finally time for some super speedway racing here at the European E-Racing League. We'll see which driver and which team that can collaborate best and come out on top tonight. Let's hand over to our friends at RaceBot and let's enjoy some super speedway racing here.
Hello everybody and welcome to Talladega for the 6th round of the European E-Racing League here for 2021. A big thanks to the guys in the ESEN studio once again for the pre-race show that we've just had before the broadcast gets underway for qualifying, and then indeed the 85 lap race that we have coming up here this evening. We're only 3 rounds away from the end of the championship as well, so things are really starting to hot up as we head to the lesser known of the two super speedways that have been used on NASCAR's calendar for many years now indeed. It's bound to be exciting though, because all of the races at Talladega are. So taking you through the day, it's Ewan O'Leary once again alongside Stefan Stryker, as we have been for much of the season. Welcome along, Stefan. It's good to have you with me here once again for this particular race, Talladega, where thrills and spills are pretty much around every corner around here. Staying out of trouble is very difficult indeed, and we're bound some excitement throughout the 85 laps this evening.
Yeah, most definitely, because as you said, Talladega always produces one great show in the Cup Car Series, and so we most definitely can look out for a very great race in this evening. Obviously, the drivers right now out on the high banks for qualifying, but as we all know, it's a super speedway. This is all but a formality. Doesn't matter whatsoever for the rest of the race, because they have 85 laps full of draft strategy, because it's not going to come down to fuel or tire management, because obviously you're gonna run your tank as dry as possible, pit as late as possible, get your draft mates together, and yeah, that's basically it. It's gonna be draft management race. You want to be there at the very last lap. That's where it counts. That's where you really need to be, handing out all your good cards.
That's where you need to be right at the end. We're just looking at qualifying. You're mentioning drafting there, and it is going to be very important throughout the race. But throughout qualifying, it isn't going to be very important at all, because it's a private session for all of these guys. And so they're out on their own, basically, and they're just able to go around by themselves. It's not a difficult track to get hold of if you try and drive it on your own. It's not difficult to get around here on your own. However, there is an art to qualifying in terms of building your speed around here and then using kind of the path of least resistance to get around here. So although you say it doesn't matter here, Stefan, the qualifying session, and it doesn't really, there is still an art to getting pole position around here, and I guess there will be some people who would like to stay out of trouble and would like to, or at least think that being at the front is the best way to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, you either always want to be at the very front or at the very back of the pack, because that's where you most of the time have the least troublesome aspect of your racing, because obviously if you're right in the middle of the pack, that's where most of the shuffling is gonna happen. Now, talking about the art of qualifying, Talladega is most definitely a little bit different, even compared to Daytona, because at Talladega, with the high bankings and especially the wide banks, you can actually gain a lot of speed, because in these fixed setups which we have, they run with a full fuel tank to start with. So they are running all the way as high as possible for the first lap, and then only at the start finish line dive down back on the low line, and then you really want to hug that yellow line as best as possible around the full lap here at Talladega, and even, as you can see in the short shoot, drive over the yellow line to get the shortest distance possible traveled, and that's exactly what you have to do. But as you can see on the left hand side of your screen, it still is quite a big difference between even just the top 5 for what seems to be just follow the yellow line one lap around.
Yeah, absolutely. It does show that it's not easy. It looks very easy, of course, but going fast around here isn't as easy as it seems sometimes. Only a minute to go here. Linus Broström comes over the line to begin his one and only flying lap as Robert Erling goes to the front right now. Daniel Solo just beats him out there as well as we're getting towards the end of qualifying here with a 51.8. The times at the end coming in and getting a little bit faster. Broström is the only man in the field not to have set a lap time just for the moment as Bertrand Fourniret gets up the order as well for France into 8th position right now, about halfway through the field, exactly where you don't want to be, as Stefan was alluding to there. But Broström here in the final 30 seconds of qualifying, we'll see where he can get up to, since he is second place in the championship, just 6 points behind Marcus Hagman. It is pretty important, you would say, for him to have a good day today and get up towards his championship rival, quite possibly in this qualifying session. So Hagman is in 4th in the 12 car. Where's the 71 going to go at the end of this qualifying? It's a 51.8, a very promising lap time, but it's not quite as... Oh, it is just as good as Daniel Solo. It's just ever so slightly better than the Swede who was currently leading, who was previously leading, excuse me. He's been overtaken by Broström, and he is going to be on the first position. So a late lap there from the second place man in the championship has taken it for Sweden. It's a very Swedish look to the front of the field. I've got to be honest. Daniel Solo at the moment at 5th place in the championship for Alcantech NHR. He is in 2nd place in this qualifying session. He's going to be on the front row with his compatriot Linus Broström in this race. So the guys are going to line up now. We're going to have a quick look at who is where in the order. Broström and Solo are going to be on the front row together, ahead of Robert Erling and Alexander Arnoldson, who is in 4th. Marcus Hagman, championship leader, 5th, alongside Martin Kapal, who will be in the 64 car in 6th. Then we've got Gabriel Storr, who's alongside Eric Lundberg. Bertrand Fourniret will be next, and Thomas Anderson rounding out the top 10. Jonas Gunnarsson's 11th, ahead of Ricard Allard, who made his debut 2 weeks ago. Daniel Page is next, ahead of Eric Blicht, who had a great start to the season, but has been tailing off on occasion in a couple of these races. Kim Johansson 15th, and Tony Uvinen, the only driver to really not set a competitive lap time, 9 seconds off the pace. He will be bringing up the rear in this grid here today. So an interesting qualifying session there. Stefan Broström getting up towards the front right at the very end, but as you said, it's not going to matter too much. The only consolidation Broström can have is really that he will be out of trouble for the first few laps. He's got to be careful not to be completely monstered off the start, though. That is always a worry.
Yeah, that was always my problem when I was starting races, or even being at the head of the field on restarts, because I always used to have very great restarts, and obviously on super speedways it's bad to have great restarts because that creates a big gap to the guys behind, and then you're gonna get swarmed on the backstretch. So that can always be a little bit tricky. So you're gotta have good starts, but not too good, because you don't want to lose the field behind you, because obviously that gives them major draft and you're gonna get swarmed on the backstretch. And you know, a very interesting tactic from Tony Uivonen, because you can pretty much spot what he was going for. Being 9 seconds off, he most definitely wanted to make sure to start that last.
Yeah, he was absolutely making sure of that. And I think one word that we're going to be using quite a lot here this afternoon is going to be the word teammates, because you're going to need pushing help here today, and you're not going to get that from your main rivals in the championship, for example, especially when it comes down to it later on in the race. If you look at the inside lane here, as we're getting ready to start, on the very inside we've got the Force Esports car of Linus Broström in the 71. Then in 3rd position, also Robert Erling in the 82 car, a Force Esports Academy car. So they're technically part of the same team, even though if they're not officially in terms of the team standings, they're technically part of the same team. And then you've got Marcus Hagman as well, Force Esports Academy driver. So that's 3 Force Esports cars formed up on the inside there, Stefan, which could be very helpful for them in the opening laps.
Yeah, but you know, one thing that I wonder is, will we have a little bit of gamesmanship? Because obviously we have Linus Broström, who is from Force Esports, but then we have Hagman, who is from Force Esports Academy. And I don't think we actually have another car for Force Esports right now. So basically, Linus Broström, even though they're on the same teams, there's technically the thing that he is completely all by himself if the Academy guys decide to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have Alexander Aroldsson, but he's not in the inside lane. He's on the outside in 4th position. So if he does want to help Broström, or if they are going to play a bit of a team game there, then they're separated just for the moment. But, of course, they could help each other push one or the other to glory a little bit later on in this race. But let's wait and see. We're a long way from that. 85 laps around the Talladega Super Speedway. It's going to be a very, very important race for everybody here. A very chaotic one, and hopefully an interesting one as well. They make their way through the tri-oval here on the pace lap, but they're going to make their way past it and towards turn 1. They're finally going to get the green flag. It's a long, long hold. Linus Broström in control of the field, but he hits the gas, and we are going to go green flag racing here at the Talladega Super Speedway. It's a good jump for the 71 car out front right now. Aroldsson immediately goes to the bottom to join up with his Force Esports Academy teammates and Force Esports normal team Academy teammates as well. Through turn 1 and 2 they go. It's single file out from front. We suspected this might happen. The teammates all on the inside line together. There's 4 of them pushing each other right now, and they're breaking away from the rest of the field already by the looks of things.
Yeah, that was a big check-up because, just like I said, Bolser with an extreme great start over the rest of the field, and Robert Elling had that mega draft up out of turn 2, and so he lifted out of turn 2. Everybody in behind lifted, but then Gabriel Stör overlooked that a little bit and nearly rear-ended the teammate of Broström, that was Hagman. And so it all opened up a little bit of a gap, because all of a sudden the field had to spread out, not to hit each other, already out of turn 2 the first lap around.
Linus Broström, having led the first lap of this race, has already earned himself 5 points for leading a lap. I'm sure that many others will be doing the same here a little bit later on, as the top 7 or so just begin to break away from the rest of the field. Bertrand Fourniret is not happy with just running single file, so got alongside Kim Anderson briefly. He slots down in front of Lundberg, and you can be sure that the 17 had a bit of a fright there and had to check up just a little bit.
Yeah, that was quite the aggressive jump down to the first lane, being so extremely slow over the rest of the field. Lane makes it 3 wide for the first time. Thomas Anderson is on the middle, but he slots down into the low line, and here comes the train for Bertrand Fournier. He is gonna slot all the way back, probably behind Kim Johansson, who is right now in 14th place.
He wasn't quite able to get down into the bottom lane like he did on lap 1, and so, or lap 2, excuse me, so he's had to go all the way to the back of the field, and it looks like Anderson is going to feel the same effects here. The number 83 car of Thomas Anderson briefly stepped out of line there to try and get ahead of Lundberg, but it's seemingly not going to work, especially if you don't have any help on that outside line. It's a long, long way to the back of the field, and Anderson is going to be feeling that effect in the next few moments. He's seeing going door to door there with the 33 of Gunnarsson. He's getting a little bit of speed at times, so I think if he did get some help, then there would be a bit of an opening for somebody on the outside line, but especially through the corners with no help at all, he's not enjoying himself, and you can see there in this camera shot there's absolutely nobody behind him, and on the outside line, especially through the corners, the longer distance, you're just not going to be able to carry the speed, and you're going to be sent to the back of the field.
Yeah, basically you need to be extremely aggressive if you're all alone on the top lane. You basically need to be mere centimeters away from the inside line to really get that side draft going. But obviously at that point it gets also quite dangerous to do, because just a small movement to the left from you or a small movement to the right from the bottom lane, and you might have quite the accident on your hands. So right now a little bit more calm. That's why we see the single file racing at the time. But at the very back of the field, it seems like 2 cars are trying to go on top. That is Anderson and Daniel Page trying the best.
I think this, in the early stages of the race, the back of the field might be the scene of a lot of action where people try and get something formed up here on the outside line. You can see they've at least pulled alongside Tony Uberden, but they've got to be careful not to get detached from the field entirely, because if they run side by side like this, they're going to actually be a little bit slower than the guys running single file. It's like it works at any racetrack really. So they can't do that for too long because they will be completely detached from the train, but fortunately on this occasion they've been able to stay in the draft and get to the back, and they might even get a bit of a run here. Tony Uvenham wasn't interested in exploring that opportunity, but Bertrand Fourniret certainly is, and so they go on the outside line, a bit of aggressive pushing there, and the 83 decided that he didn't actually want any part of that. That looks a little bit dangerous, and so they slot down to the inside once again, and Fourniret looks like he's there with no help once again.
Yeah, that did look a little bit weird here from Daniel Page. I'm not sure what he was trying to do, but most definitely not 100% willing to push Fournier. So interesting. It's now the 19, and I think that is once again Anderson. Yes, it is on the top lane, the 83. So they switch around the 83 now ahead of the 19, and Fournier is trying to slot up in behind, but he is losing ever so slightly the draft right now. Has to wait a little bit of a check-up from the bottom line, like you're able to see there. And here now comes the 3-car train. Let's see if they can gain something.
They're finally getting somewhere by the looks of things. Well, I say somewhere. They're getting alongside Eric Blicht at the moment, and they've just got quite a big gap between them there, so that's not going to be particularly helpful for their run down the back straight. But finally, some promise here on the outside line. We've not seen very much of it in the opening 7 laps of this race. But I'm very glad to see that some of the drivers are at least willing to try it, because sometimes, especially in NASCAR these days, we see a lot of single file running in the Daytona 500 and the Talladega races that we have as well. There's a lot of single file running. There's not much aggression that goes on at all in these races, but I'm glad that early on some people are at least trying something. Even though they're fighting a losing battle some of the time, they're trying something at the very least, and they're getting some rewards for their efforts at the moment.
Yeah, most definitely, at least right now. It's not very well organized, that bottom line. And that's why we see these top drivers to really be able to catch right now. Normally you wouldn't be able to do that with just 2 drivers. Now we have a 3rd car jump up high. That is the teammate of Daniel Page, Rickard Allard. That is. Let's see how he can perform up top. And now 3 cars. That should work a little bit better, but obviously in the turns they are losing a little bit of that integrity of the top line. It was a little bit of a slide there from Thomas Anderson, but it's exactly what I was talking about. They are trying, but they're not very well organized. Now even Thomas Anderson goes top, so makes it 3 wide here. This is not working out very well for these guys. They need to have that consistency. They need to stay front to back. It just doesn't work if you're not 100% organized.
I have to say, as soon as Rickard Allard got to the front of this group here on the outside line, that group was immediately going absolutely nowhere, and for some reason Thomas Anderson was a lot better at going on the outside line than Allard was. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier on. There is an art as well to going on the outside line. To a lot of people, over racing in any form really, but especially the super speedways, it just looks like people driving flat out in a circle, just turning left for 85 laps, and then by some miracle, some lottery, by avoiding the crashes, you basically win a race. But that's not really how it works. There is a real art to it, especially running on the outside line. I think we saw it there. Anderson was able to do it a lot better than Allard was, and you saw as soon as the 302 got in front of those guys, the outside line was immediately stalled out. And so you do need the right combination of guys to make it work, and that's what they're trying to work out at the back right now.
Yeah, you also need a great pusher, because if you're not a great pusher, if you're not always right on the back end of the car in front of you, and you're not 100% squared out on the back end of your front car, you're not going to be very efficient at pushing. Sometimes you can also stay a little bit back and just push with your front aero, because you're always pushing a little bit of an air cushion, so to speak, in front of your car. And even that, or you can give the car in front of you a great boost, but you have to be careful to not be too fast at running up to the car in front of you, because then you give the car in front of you a great push. You yourself slow down, even if it's just 2 miles an hour. That is already enough for yourself to lose that big pull that the car in front opens up with a big aero pocket that these cars develop behind themselves, and that will then already destroy the top lane, and you have to slot in back behind of the bottom lane. So you really have to be careful. You really have to think about what you do. You're not only having to manage how square you are to the car, but also how far you're behind, how fast you're catching. Sometimes it's even good to lift off a little bit while you're catching the car in front, just to make sure that once that push on the front car comes in, that you yourself are not losing them too much to all of a sudden no longer have the beneficial to once again catch up.
Yeah, absolutely, it is a very fine balance and a very fine art to make it work. We're seeing Bertrand Fournier and Thomas Anderson trying again on the outside line very briefly there, two of the biggest animators in the race so far. You can see Allard there just lifting off ever so slightly and letting Anderson in. I think he'd rather be at the back right now, and I don't think that was by accident either, as Daniel Page just gets onto the back of Fournier now and decides to get something going maybe. Thomas Anderson joining in as they just get past Tony Uvinen, who's spent, I don't know if you've been noticing this, Stefan, but oh no, he's gone wrong!
Oh!
He's gone wrong! He's got it to the side of Anderson, and Anderson, the 83, into the wall in a big way, I'm afraid. Oh dear, they were both below the apron, so we stay green just for the moment, but I was just about to say, Tony Uvinen has spent most of his day lifting off at the back of the field, trying desperately to stay in last place. But this is when it can go wrong, even at the very, very back. You're not always safe around here.
Yeah, not at all. Now, Tony Uvinen, you're gonna see it after entering the dog leg here. Right here, he goes up a little bit too high, tries to correct that, has a little bit of a slide that he has to catch, and then wobbles back and forth, gets thrown up by the apron into the 83, and the 83 with a hard impact to the inside safer barrier. And I don't think we're gonna see that 83 continue any more racing.
No, absolutely not. You can only get the maximum laps down you can run here is 9 laps. So that would be a very quick repair, I have to say. Uvenen's about to appear on our right hand side, there he is, and just doesn't hold the yellow line down at the bottom there, and straight into the side of Anderson, who suffers a very big hit indeed. Firstly with the front, which has taken most of the damage, and then a slight tap on the rear as well, which is fairly academic at this stage. The 83 is probably going to be our first retirement of the day.
Yeah, right now he's even too slow to meet the minimum required speed, as he was racing at just 254 kilometers an hour, and you need to be at least 267 kilometers an hour to be allowed to still be racing. So hopefully he can get that car repaired in less than 9 laps, because 9 laps, that's exactly the margin that you are allowed to still be running. Now, obviously also Tony Uvinen completely lost the back end of the field with all of that, only running 290 kilometers an hour, where Kim Johansson, the back end of the pack right now, 313, 14 even kilometers an hour.
Yeah, they're certainly going a lot quicker, and he'll be hoping for a caution in the next few laps before he gets caught, or indeed, he'll be hoping for a lucky dog indeed if he is caught, and obviously both of those situations he needs a caution, so he'll be looking out for that. But we're finally getting somewhere on the outside line now. As we were looking at those replays very briefly, the chaos that has been created at the back has allowed a bit of a group to form on the outside line here. It involves 3 drivers. Bertrand Fournier, who's at the front of another group here, Daniel Page, who's trying to push someone else to glory by the looks of things in the 19, and also we have the 302, and they've just been joined by another pairing who were trying to get something going on the outside line. However, the top 5 all of a sudden have turned on the afterburners a little bit, and they're going away all of a sudden. So as soon as they, as soon as they started to get somewhere, they're all of a sudden falling back quite dramatically here. This is on board with Daniel Page, and we're really going to get a view as to what it's like being in the middle of this pack right now. But it's a shame to see. Bertrand Fournier was in 3rd place a minute ago as we started looking at these shots, but they started to go backwards ever so slightly, looking like they're maybe getting a bit of speed up once again now.
And this is the thing I was talking about. You were able to see how far the 19 was back on the back end of the 6. That's exactly what you don't want to do. He was so far behind, he actually had to lift a little bit out of the throttle going into turn 1, because he was catching the 6 so far. And once again, just not squared up on the back end of that 6, and so that top line is going nowhere right now, because what you're doing to yourself right now, right here, is that you're having some aero some air on the right-hand side of your car. That slows you down, has a little bit of a drag, and that also pushes your car more and more over to the right. So you're also having to correct a little bit more to the left to stay more in line with the car head. And all of that scrubs a little bit of speed, and that's why we're seeing this topside line just not going anywhere. Also doesn't help your fuel efficient. And in case you're wondering, is he doing that maybe just to get a little bit of air for his coolant? That is not a thing. We are at running the default baseline, and that has already quite a little bit of tape on the car. So overheating your car, really no problem here whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the default setup. So I must say, the drivers aren't a particular fan of the way it drives, but I am a fan of it in terms of a racing standpoint. It is just about the driver getting things right in terms of the setup guys getting it right, which is not always the most exciting. I think that is Thomas Anderson, who's done a remarkable job to get that car repaired, because it was a hefty hit on the back of on the side of the wall there. He's got out of the way on the right hand side, but I'm afraid he's going to lose the draft entirely here. Pretty much definitely. That was a very scary moment as well for the 13 Daniel Solo, who's going a little bit slowly and also blinking a little bit with a few connection problems. So let's hope that those don't completely destroy this race, because when you're running in such close proximity, anything like that can turn things very sour quite quickly. But I do just want to touch on the fuel there you briefly mentioned, Stefan. We're about 20 laps into this race, nearly a quarter of the way through already. It's flying by, to be honest, because of the green flag racing we've had so far. What are we expecting in terms of this race, and how damaging is it for, I've been very complimentary of Bertrand Fordyret and Daniel Page and these kind of guys so far for being very animated on the outside line, trying to get something going in this race, but what is that doing to their fuel compared to the guys who are sat comfortably on the inside line, who are just lifting off quite regularly, you would imagine?
Well, for Bertrand Fournier, it is pretty much the same thing as for Linus Boström. If I remember correctly now, don't quote me 100% on these numbers, because I somehow managed to lose my fuel number sheet that I have written out for this broadcast. But I think it was 32 laps that you were able to run if you are 100% in clean air. So Linus Boström, 32 laps, that's as far as he goes. Could be wrong. I'm just trying to remember it off the top of my head here. For the guys behind, obviously that stretches to 35, even 36 laps if you're constantly, like Tony Uivinen was doing, running at the very back, lifting a lot of times, not even running full throttle at all down the straight. So he would have been saving a lot of fuel right there, but obviously for the guys more further up front, Erling, Alidson, it comes more towards 33 laps. 34 laps, but yeah, it's somewhere in that range where we're going to be expecting all these guys to come into pit lane.
Speaking of, Tony Uivinen's just come into the pit lane. You just mentioned it there. He's been detached from the back of the field. Oh, and he had to reverse into his box there as well. It's getting worse for Tony Uivinen, I'm afraid. The left side tyres are being changed by the looks of things. Only the left side tyres. I didn't see the right get jacked up there. He's getting the entire load of fuel by the looks of things, and a little bit more. There might be a bit of repairing going on here, and there finally he's dropped down and goes. 21.5 second pit stop, that is quite long. He's now at least a lap down, a lap and a half down, you would argue as well at this stage. So if ever there's a man who needs a caution, it's Tony Uivinen right now, because if not, then he's going to be in big trouble throughout the remainder of this race. Slightly strange strategic call there, I must say.
Yeah, for Uivinen, 100%, he was just too damaged, probably, was losing a lot of speed. He was only doing 292 kilometers an hour, so a little bit expected for Uivinen to come into pit lane, if you're honest, thinking about the damage that he probably has. Also, as you can see on the left-hand screen, Anderson, the 83, into pit lane. That is him 100% sure of that, retiring now, because he was still only able to reach a maximum top speed of 265 kilometers an hour, and that is still 2 kilometers an hour slower than the minimum required top speed that he needs. But once again, he is out of pit lane, and there comes Tony Uivinen.
Well, this might be helpful for him, because he was running on his own before, but now he might have a friend, although I think Tony Uven is just going to have a little bit too much pace for him out on the out on that. Oh dear! Oh dear! Oh dear! Well, that is going to be the first caution of the day. Tony Uvenen and Thomas Anderson both involved in that accident, and both of them are going to be presumably out of this one, out of the particular race. Let's have another look at what happened here. Doesn't look... I don't think we can say this is an accident at this point, I'm afraid. Tony Uvenen and Thomas Anderson come together. And there we have it. Tony, of course, if you were with us earlier, these two have already come into contact about 10 laps ago. It ended up with Thomas Anderson having big damage. Tony Uvenen was detached from the pack as well, but now they're both certainly detached from the pack. And that was quite a shaky driver going up and down the bank in there, I'm afraid. So that is the end of both of their races, and a real shame. A real shame to see for both of them that they are both out. But it does open us up now to a completely different race. 61 laps to go at the end of this one. The pit lane is going to be open. I believe this is 3 and 4. It is indeed. And so you'd imagine, Stefan, we're going to see everybody coming down here.
Yeah, 100% everybody's going to come down. Nobody is going to be willing to stay out with just presumably a few laps to go in their fuel stint. And it obviously also splits it quite nicely, because after this stop, they only need one more stop to be good to go to the end of the race. So every single car of the 14 that we still have running are now going down in their pit stops, and this could be really interesting because we're gonna see how much people were able to save, and if somebody's only gonna take 2 tires right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's gonna take 2, who's gonna take 4, and so on and so forth. Let's see. There's the Force Esports guys at both Academy and the normal team getting out. 24 car leaves first. It's not Linus Brostrom. We're going to have a new leader by the looks of things. There's cars everywhere. Daniel Solo has gained a few places there, I believe, maybe 1 or 2. Looks like Brostrom, because he was running out front, probably needed more fuel than everybody else, and so he has dropped down the order a little bit. So it's Araldson who has taken the lead out of this one. Where is Brostrom? He's a long way down. 13th, there he is in our camera shot. I was looking for a black and gold car, but I realised that's not that's not quite the livery I was looking for. Brostrom, a long stop, and there's the replay. Oh, he had to reverse into his box. We're going to get a better look at it here, Stefan, but the pit stops are so crucial around here, and you cannot afford to be doing this.
Yeah, he overshot his pit box by quite some distance here, but half a car length is what he overshot it, and then even had to go forward once again. So, disaster for Linus Brostrom, because he reversed and still was off line to where his pit crew needed him to be, so that's why he had to go forward and once again back to be lined up with his pit crew.
Robert Erling also had to, I believe, reverse there as well. He lost a couple of seconds in that last pit stop cycle, and he's dropped out of the top 4 down to 7th position now in the 82. Eric Blichter's had a good stop there. He's into 8th position now. Who's done well out of that as well? It looks like most of the others are in a fairly similar position to where they were before. We've got Araldson now leading. Marcus Hagman is in 2nd place. Daniel Solo 3rd ahead of Gabriel Storr. Jonas Gunnarsson as well. You notice some of the guys up front have had slightly shorter pit stops as well, because they might have had a little bit less fuel to take on than Brostrom, who was running wide open out the front this entire time. So he will have obviously been burning a little bit more fuel. What I do want to say, though, is I know that Araldson is not really... He's had a couple of poor results so far this season, so he's not really up there in the championship. 9th place at the moment, but this has got to be one of the only times I've ever been commentating where somebody has gained points while under the caution flag, so 5 have just been added to Araldson's name as he crosses the line now. For leading a singular lap, you get 5 points, and so there you have it. He's just gained 5. Hagman alongside him. We're going to be going green in 1 lap's time, but yeah, a real disaster for Linus Brostrom. He comes into the pits again, and I presume once you've taken this much damage already, Stefan, to your race, you might as well take some more and get a little bit more fuel on board, I presume. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing in the pit lane, but it was a shorter stop.
Yeah, no brainer there for Linus Broström. He did take right side tires. Now he did take left side tires only on his pit stop, like pretty much any other car. And as you said correctly, he did top up on fuel again. So yeah, no brainer for Linus Broström here. Is going to have a little bit more fuel, and he is anyway at the very back end of the field. So why not do that right now, right here?
59 laps to go then, Stefan. Is the aggression level going to pick up, or are we too early in the race for that still just yet?
Quite honestly, hopefully it's going to pick up, because we right now have seen a lot of single file racing with Linus Broström. He most definitely will want to go through the field here, so I'm expecting a little bit of an aggressive stance here from the 71, maybe even see one of his teammates drop back through the field to help out that 71 get back up to the front of the field once again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very big possibility. We've got the Force Esports cars are not formed up on the inside line like they were before, 1, 2, 3 and 4 either, which might help a little bit. They were kind of creating a bit of a force field around the top 4 positions that nobody else was really able to get anywhere near. They briefly got alongside Robert Erling, but they really didn't get anywhere on the outside line, the likes of Fournier, Page and all of those guys who are on the outside line. Now everybody's scattered everywhere again. Where is this race going to head? We've had 26 laps so far, a couple of incidents, 14 cars remain in the lead lap and undamaged as well for the most part, with 59 remaining. One more pit stop as well to make. How are they going to tackle the rest of this race? It is Alexander Arvidsson in control of the field. He hits the gas first. Marcus Hagman didn't react nearly as quickly as he needed to there, because Solo was able to get alongside him. Arvidsson tries to help him though on the outside line. This is where we might see some changes to what we saw previously. We've got the previous race leader Linus Broström right out the back of the field in 14th position right now. Hagman and Arvidsson on the outside line. Arvidsson tries to help his teammate at the moment. Hagman, the championship leader, tries to push the purple and gold car to the front. Solo is blocked as well on the inside line. They all stuck up. They all get a little bit loose as well. It's getting tight racing now, but Hagman is going nowhere. He's going backwards.
Yeah, Alidson tried to help out Hagman. They were clear for a split second, but they decided to not jump the lane there. And then obviously Alidson had to go back down again because the push was coming in from the 13. It was a good jump down to the bottom, so the 24 at least stays up front right now for Force Esports. But obviously Hagman all the way back to the back end of the field. Even Robert Erling has now passed him. And here we go, the 71 has caught up with D12.
Yeah, now, so we do have a couple of teammates, or at least a teammate to help Linus Broström here, but I don't think it was intentional. Now Force Esports begin to form on the outside line, and 3 drivers immediately recognise that and want a piece of the action. Around the outside goes Rickard Allard. He wasn't really able to get anywhere the last time he was leading a train, but this time around he's got Lundberg behind him, and Johansson, goodness gracious, the speed they have on the outside line is monumental, and they're about to head into 3rd place by the looks of things. Allard has really got ahead of steam right now. Hagman and Broström joining up. This is the most promising we've seen so far. The overspeed they had through turn 4 there was mighty, and now we really do have a race on with 6 cars forming up on the outside line. Gabriel Storr under pressure for 3rd position right now. He's being held very close to the inside line. It's getting all very close now with nearly 30 laps complete in this race. The Force Esports guys are on the outside line, and Rickard Allard is finally getting somewhere. The outside line getting a bit of momentum briefly there.
Yeah, for the first time, Rickard Allard actually has somebody behind him that can push, and you can immediately see the difference that top lane is making. But now everybody jumps in back in line with the bottom lane, so these 2 guys are pretty much left out to dry here. Actually, a might be a car jumping up top. No, decides against it, Jonas Gunnarsson. So these 2 continue to cycle ever so slowly back. Now even Linus Storm with Hagman and Broström.
As Daniel Page also gets to the outside line with Bertrand Fournier. Those two have been basically inseparable so far. But not for the moment. Solo looks like he's trying to go for the lead here. Arlton with no protection from behind. Look at this now on the outside line. There's a number of drivers. The 13 tries to go for the lead. Gabriel Storr fills that void and tries to help him along. And Arlton looks like he's going to hold on here. Around the inside goes Hagman. He might well gain a whole load of spots here. As Solo had a lot of people to help him there, but not able to really get through. He's got Kapow just behind trying to push him, and now maybe they're organised. Arlton tries to block on the outside line. He sends them up the racetrack. They're next to the wall basically. Kapow pushes Solo, who does get to the lead now. Arlton, with very little help, is going backwards on the outside line and finally taking the front.
Yeah, wait for it though, because now we have 4 or 5 cars lined up on the bottom side. 3 of them are Force Esports cars, so there might be once again come a big push from the bottom, but they have already 3 cars ahead of the bottom. Here comes the Allison though once again. His line is turned with second place 64 car. Now comes up to the rear bumper of the 13. Here comes once again the train on the bottom side.
Yeah, absolutely. The Force Esports guys are formed up all once again. We've got pretty much dead even. We've got 14 cars on the lead lap right now. We've pretty much got 7 and 7 on the outside and the inside, although it's 8 on the outside line and 6 on the inside. So even with the extra 2 cars of help here, the inside line is still advantageous. It just shows how difficult it is to make the outside line actually work here. Despite numerical advantage here, they're still not able to go quicker.
Yeah, and now Prost
they
fall back a little bit. Oh my goodness, that has happened.
There's cars everywhere. Daniel Solo at the front spins around. There are cars caught up in that all over the place. Arlton and Storr look like the only ones who have really got away with that unscathed. We've seen our first big crash of the day, and it comes on lap 32. This is the look from the aerial shot here. Stefan, it's going to be a very nasty watch.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bad push from the 64, just not lined up perfectly to the rear bumper of the 13. A little bit of a wheel there already from the 64, and then here comes the second push, and just look, just ever so slightly offset, pushes the 13 to the outside line, has an overreaction to that, right into the 12, and that is right here. Not only a big crash, but also championship implications, because Hagman is our current leader.
Marcus Hagman in the 12. Just watch the third car on the inside line. There he is. He's going to get caught up in this. The championship leader. I'll be interested to see how Broström and Blixt got through here. The other 2 main contenders. Where are they? The 71, you can see the gap forming just in front of him. He might have had time to slow down. He goes to the inside, just Broström, and he gets away with it. I think Eric Blixt might have been following him through there, but you saw Hagman had big contact there. Very big contact for the championship leader. This championship is going to change. This is on board with Broström. Fantastic avoiding driving here.
Yeah, he was extremely lucky. There's the incident. Immediately goes to the inside, even down below the yellow line. And that's pretty much what saved him there from being collected in a much, much bigger accident than he probably would have wanted to witness.
This is Eric Blixt as well. We saw the opening round's winner of this championship. He's on the outside line. That's where all the trouble is. You can see Kapow already getting mightily out of shape. This is the 95 car. There's absolutely no way he's going to be able to avoid this. Surely they come to the outside line. Blixt is caught up in it, and he hits one of his rivals, Hagman, as well. So Blixt and Hagman both turning around there, both getting involved in the accident. Blichter was second place in round 1, by the way, but did lead a whole load of laps and scored a whole load of points throughout the entire season, really, with a couple of podiums. So Blixt also involved in that one. There is Linus Broström, though. We have 6 cars on the lead lap who are undamaged and who have gone past the pit lane at the moment. Stefan, the race is against the clock, not in terms of what we see in NASCAR in real life, but in terms of the crash clock or whatever. We don't have any of that, but we do have a real race to get those cars repaired down in pit lane right now. So who is going to get out first and who is going to be able to get out with no particular problems. So Since we're under caution, we're going to very quickly throw to the break. We're about halfway through the race. The cars are getting repaired in the pit lane right now. We're going to take a short commercial break. Join us after this for the restart. Welcome back to Talladega, where there are 50 laps remaining in this race, and just over half of it to figure out what on earth is going to happen here in this championship, because it has just all completely turned on its head. Alexander Aronson is still leading this race, by the way, but the big story, Marcus Hagman and Eric Blicht both caught up in a huge accident on the back straight here last time around to cause this caution. The first big pile-up we've seen so far today. Stefan, the race is against time in the pit lane right now to get some of these cars repaired. Looks like 11 cars have been able to get on the lead lap at the very least.
Yeah, that's all we're gonna have probably for this remainder of the race. 9 cars are still what seems to be undamaged, so at least we still will have a good pack racing here at the top of the race for the 50 last laps. Let's see how this is gonna turn out.
Absolutely. Hagman is that car you can see just at the back there. Broström third position on the inside line here. He's going to be pushing his teammate Aronson off of this restart. As you mentioned, 9 cars in the pack at the moment, but there are 2 of Daniel Solo and Eric Blicht. Oh goodness, Solo really with a head of steam coming up towards these guys. Eric Blicht is going to try and get towards them as well, but he's not going to catch the pack by the looks of things. There he is in the background. He's going to try, but doesn't look like he's going to be able to. We believe there are 8 undamaged cars standing out there at the moment, and you can already see who they are. Stefan, Hagman is not able to stay with the pack by the looks of it.
Yeah, exactly. And also Gunnarsson and Fournier, didn't spot them earlier, but they're also damaged. They also do have front end damage. It's going to be interesting to see how they are going to be able to hang with the field here. So it seems like at least 6 cars are still undamaged. However, it's going to be interesting how that damage is going to affect the guys in behind, because if that damage isn't too bad for Fournier and Gunnarsson, they still will be able to have a great rest of the drive. And what is Kim Johansson doing?
Where on earth has he gone here? 50 laps to go. He's in the pit lane for some reason. Has he in some way broken the rules on the under the caution?
Yes, on the restart. Kim Johansson jumped to the bottom lane and overtook the 16. That is not allowed. He overtook it on the left side. And so that is why he is in pit lane and is serving a stop-and-go penalty. You're going to see it on the replay here. Maybe quite nicely. There we go. So the 14 is going to jump to the bottom lane right here. And is going to overtake the 16 before the start-finish line. That is not allowed.
So just to be clear, is it allowed that you are allowed to jump down to the bottom before the start-finish line and pull alongside, but it's the overtake that was the penalty, or is it just pulling to the inside generally that was the problem?
No, it is the overtaking. That is the penalty right here. If he would have overtaken on the outside, that would have been good, but because he did it on the inside here, you can see it quite nicely on the slow-mo, but half a car length he is ahead of the 16 come the start-finish line. So if he would have overtaken on the outside, perfectly fine, no issues there, but because he jumped to the inside and then overtaken the 16, which was the car ahead of him in line, that right there is the penalty.
You can see why, because the 16 got a horrible restart, but it's still not within the rules to be able to do that. So, penalty for Johansson, I'm afraid. Kim Johansson, who is now a lap down because of it, and a long way down from the rest of the pack as well. So, that is a real shame for him. And some of these cars are in a lot of trouble. A little bit further back, we've got 7 cars in this train now. So, 2 of the damaged cars you referred to there, Fournier and Gunnarsson, I think they are able to keep some kind of a pace. So they've been able to get away without much damage, but you can see the likes of Hagman, Blix and Solo are all very badly damaged in this race by the looks of it. They're losing heaps and heaps and heaps of time already. And we can already see which 7 cars are going to be in contention. Maybe which 5, because Gunnarsson and Fournier go side by side and have completely shot themselves out the back of this train.
Yeah, gonna be interesting now with this dynamic. 5 cars is what we have left now in that top train. So Fournier and Gunnarsson is only gonna be able to fight for whatever position they can grab right now. That is 6th place. I don't think that Johansson will be anywhere close to them. Where is he actually? Oh, so he's now going into the dogleg here. So yeah, Kim Johansson quite far behind. Don't think he's going to be able to catch them anytime soon. So lap 40 of these 85 laps. Gunnarsson, Fournier out of the picture. Maybe even Daniel Page, because he is sort of losing the front fork. He has a little bit of rear end damage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to find cars out there at the moment that are not damaged, it's fair to say. Erling and Kapal still in the pit lane right now. They're very close. They're about to be 7 laps down as they cross the line here right now. It's looking unlikely that they're going to be able to stay in this race. Have you also, I know you've been looking at the damaged cars, Stefan, and looking at the minimum speed, which is around, I think, 267 kilometers an hour that you have to reach as a car around here at the moment. But how many cars are actually below that? Are there any cars that are not actually reaching that at the moment?
Yeah, so 267 kilometers an hour or 165 miles per hour. That's what you have to meet as a minimum requirement. And right now, Solo and Blix are exactly hitting 267 kilometers an hour on the straight. They aren't hitting that in the turns. I wonder a little bit if that is going to make a difference, because not always they're even hitting down the front stretch or back stretch these 267 kilometers an hour. So sort of expecting that Blix and Solo will be able, or will need to pull their car into pit lane anytime soon. Same thing is for Eric Lundberg, who is still circulating on the track. The number 17 is not hitting the maximum minimum required speed, just ever so slightly is hitting that at the back end, the end of the back stretch. And that probably isn't going to be good enough for your steward. So Eric Lundberg, expect him to also be needing to pull into pit lane soon. Marcus Hagman, he is right now one of the cars that is still hitting the required minimum speed. He is doing 272 right now, so he should be good. And he's also doing that without draft, so that's very great for him. Robert Erling, another car, 255 kilometers an hour. Also, he is completely out of this picture. So, yeah, you can pretty much focus on the top 8, and that's about it.
Yes, that looks like that will be the case. Capella's officially retired, by the way, because he is 9 laps down anyway. Oh, Allard, where's the hell's he gone?
That is
Page
pit lane.
Oh, well, there we go. He's back again now, so that's good. But Page just went to the bottom there just to make sure that he wasn't going to clatter into the back of somebody there. So that was good of him. Martin Capel, yeah, as I mentioned, has retired. But Erling, because he knows that he's about to be 9 laps down, has very quickly decided to get out of the pit lane and trying to meet minimum speed now, you would imagine. But we'll see if he can actually manage that, as Allard is losing the front three here for some reason. Although he's not quite lost the draft by the looks of things just yet. He has opened up a couple of car limits. Is he trying to get a run here, maybe, to overhaul everybody? Or what is going on there? Hagman gets overtaken there, so that's going to be quite soul-destroying for him, really. You're seeing one of your championship rivals sail past on the left-hand side there. There's nothing he can do at all. 8th place might be the best he gets today, unless something goes wrong for those in front.
Yeah. There you're able to see what the difference of 30 kilometers an hour at the speed of 315 kilometers an hour really means, because that's the speed that Alexander Allison was doing when he was passing Hagman there. So, yeah, looked like Hagman was standing still at a whopping 270 kilometers an hour.
Yes, it's quite a sobering thought, really, about that one. But there we are. We've got 5 for the lead then. And one thing that I will note about it, Alexander Arvidsson still leading here, and he's probably led more than Broström did at the start of this race, I would say at this point. So those 5 points for the most laps led might be going to him soon. However, since these two are actually on legitimately the same team, and only one of them are in championship contention, I'm almost surprised they haven't swapped yet, in all honesty. But what I will say, out of these 5, they're the only 2 with a teammate here that might play into their hands in the last 40 laps.
I'm not sure why you would want to switch to first place right now if you're the 71, because obviously right now you're not caring about the most laps led. You're right now caring about you're saving a fuel right here, and that's a shorter pit stop that you then can lead the rest of the laps after the last required pit stop that these guys will still have to make. So right now the 71 is in dreamland because he can save behind his teammate, who can control the pace a little bit so that the guys behind aren't able to overtake.
That is a very good point. I'm glad you're here, Stefan, to keep me on the ground. So, yeah, that's a very good point. He'll be staying behind for the moment. And I guess the 15 points he would gain from second to first is a lot more valuable than the 5 points he would gain for most laps led anyway. So there you have it. He'll be staying behind for the moment. And it may well stay like this for the next 10 laps or so for these front 5. But how are they going to communicate all of this? I know the Force Esports guys are much more likely to be in connection with each other, as I believe Johansson makes his way through on Blicht and Solo. It looks like he's going at a much bigger pace than all of the guys around him for some reason, because he of course is not damaged. He's making his way through the cars who are 1 lap down. But yeah, how are they going to communicate coming down pit lane together? It's going to be, we could well see green flag pit stops here, and there could well be a differing in strategy in terms of these guys. So are they all going to make sure they come down together so that they don't end up on their own, or are they going to leave the Force Esports guys to do their own thing, and the other 3 kind of form a temporary alliance to try and beat them? I have no idea how they're going to tackle this, really.
Well, it is always a little bit tricky to come into pit lane from such high speeds with nothing more than steel brakes. Yes, these cars have the same brakes that you have on your road-going car. Believe it or not, even though they're doing these neck-braking speeds, they do have nothing more than your box standard steel brakes. So it is a little bit difficult to come down into pit lane from these high speeds in a big pack. So ideally you don't want to have more than 4 cars going into pit lane at the same time. And one thing that's for sure is there's a car smoking on the inside. That was, I think, Eric Lundberg. Yes, it was very much so. So he did blow up his engine. That means that 17 will be most definitely retired for the day. But yeah, I'm 100% sure that Alert and Page are in some sort of TeamSpeak, or maybe it's Discord, whatever they might use for their voice transmission service of choice. They are teammates, so they most definitely are in constant communication. They're gonna be pitting in at the same time. For the top two, Alex and Broström, same teammates. They are sitting together in a voice channel. So they are also going to be pitting in at the same time, because you still want to have at least a draft partner, because obviously running all by your lonesome is quite a lot slower than even just having one car with you. The question comes in though with that 16. Gabriel Stör, he has no teammate to either of those two packs, nor does he have a teammate in this championship. So for him, it's all about deciding who does he want to go with. Is it the front guys or the rear guys? He really has to decide that on the spot, because sometimes these guys don't even notify anyone around them that they're going to be pitting in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very difficult situation. There's a couple of cars on the outside line there that might be... I was going to say Blixt and Solo, but it's not actually, is it? It's another couple of the cars on the outside line there. But either way, they're... another... Oh, it was Blixt and Solo, excuse me. So they're now 2 laps down on the field. I was just doing a bit of maths, by the way, while you were talking there, Staffan, about the championship situation, which may well be an interesting one coming up in the next few moments. Let's hypothesise that... is that the right word? Let's imagine that Linus Broström wins this race and because he's obviously led at least one lap. I don't think he's going to lead the most. That might well go to Arulton. He's probably close to being Arulton already, actually, since Broström got the first 20 odd. Now the next 30 odd have gone to Arulton. So maybe it's up in the air either way. But at the very least, Marcus Hagman, with Broström winning the race, he's going to lose 60 points. And he's only 6 points in front, so he's going to lose that lead 54 points. That sounds like an awful lot here, Stefan, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of points up for grabs in these races. There are big points gaps between each of the positions, especially at the front of the field, so it's not all over if Hagman finishes in about 8th or 9th, which he's looking like doing right now.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit weird that he had such a big crash and still maybe is able to finish in 9th place. But that's just how this works. We had a big crash, so he was one of the cars that didn't get too much damage, so he still can run out there and maybe pick up quite a nice load of points. But obviously Broström is loving this, because we're heading into, if I remember correctly, the last 2 races after Talladega. So yeah, it puts the 71 in a very favorable position.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a very interesting championship, I've got to say. There's been some good races, but most of all, there is an interesting championship battle happening at the front of the field. Unfortunately for Eric Blixt, things are not going quite as well. He was 13 points behind Broström at the start of the day, and even with the 150, Blixt finishing in about 10th position, 60 or 70 points are going to be lost by Blixt. So again, it's not all over for him, but it is a mountain to climb, I'm afraid, for him at this stage. That is Hagman going 2 laps down, by the way. So it's difficult for him to get back on the lead lap.
So we had... we went back to green on lap 40, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
So wait, give me 2 seconds. This might just be a quick calculation here. So yeah, we went back to green on lap 36. 36 was the first green flag lap again. So 36 we're now have started lap 54. So that means in 20 laps, let's say 20 laps, Hagman lost 2 laps. He still has 7 laps to go until he has to retire the car, because you're a maximum of 9 laps allowed to be behind. So with 30 laps still remaining, average of about 10 laps until he gets lapped once by this field. It's good news for Hagman, because he's going to be able to keep his 9th place as of right now, because he's not getting lapped fast enough for him to put him into a DNF position.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point, actually. I didn't quite consider that, but we will have to think about that in the next year. I think for Blixt as well, I think because Blixt is running at a slightly slower pace than Hagman, it might even be more of a desperate situation for him. So we will keep an eye on that over the next few laps. What they won't be worried about, though, is cars coming up from behind and overtaking them in terms of the points situation, because they are there's no faster cars behind them. I guess Solo is the only real worry for Blicht, maybe, but either way, they're not likely to come into contact. And Hagman looks like he has decent enough pace over these two. You can definitely see that the 12. I'm quite surprised by it, because Hagman had some very big hits, but Hagman, even running on his own, is comparable to these two. So you can at least say pretty much with confidence that Hagman's car is in a lot better shape than these two. So they're looking very, very crumpled, I've got to say.
Yeah, they're looking very crumpled, and if they wouldn't be able to have each other, they would be out of this race because they wouldn't meet the minimum required speed. So, also, interesting development, Kim Johansson is now going to get lapped, so he's also going to get put 2 laps behind the field, but since he is a non-damaged car, he's going to be able to actually stick in behind this field, so all of a sudden we'll have 6 cars and not 5 cars for the lead of this race. But obviously we kind of have to not calculate the 4 into that, because I'm quite sure of it, he's just going to stay in behind in line and save a little bit of fuel himself.
Yeah, shouldn't get involved. I think it would be a little bit frowned upon if he did as well, to be honest. So we'll see. Let's hope that he can get onto the back of the train, though, because it would be frustrating. Yeah, it looks like he will. He's caught himself in that little elastic band, and he's going to be flung back towards the back of these guys. Daniel Page, we were just focusing in on there, just at the back of this train. This 5-car leading train, with Johansson now getting himself there as well. But when are the pit stops going to commence? We've got 28 laps to go. They can make it to the end from here, but when is going to be the right moment for them to do so? We're not too far away from those pit stops, because if we go by your rough calculations, well, they weren't rough calculations, but they were lost, so we'll go with 32 laps, which is what you said earlier, Stefan. You know, we're just approaching on 34 for these guys. I know there's caution laps involved, and for some of them draft laps as well, laps where they're lifting off for quite a long time. However, we're still getting very close to that moment now where they're going to have to come in.
Yeah, I think so. And by the way, here you can see what the difference of 40 kilometers an hour at the speed of 315 kilometers an hour means. The 2 cars behind, yeah, they're only doing 270 kilometers an hour down the front stretch. So, pretty much like a freight train going past there. Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting, because obviously you want to run the tank as low as possible. You don't want to leave a little bit in pit early, do like the undercut of things, because then obviously you have 2 cars versus 4 cars, and that always means that you're slower, because a 4-car train is faster than a 2-car train. So yeah, it is just like that. They're gonna all run to as dry as possible, pit in, and then have a short sprint till the end. So yeah, no, who's gonna blink first? Honestly, I have no idea, because it could be the front, it could be the back, it could be Gabriel Stör for some reason, and then someone pulling with him. Yeah, we're only gonna have to wait and see how this is gonna develop.
It's developing into a very interesting one indeed. Only 25 laps to go very shortly, 26 at the line. Nobody dips below the white line on the left-hand side, though. Definitely until the pit stops here. Don't expect to see too much attacking of the 2 Force Esports cars up in front. We're expecting, or I'm certainly expecting them to stay in line until the pit stops, and then afterwards it may well kick off just a little bit, and there might well be a couple of opportunities, quite possibly, for them to make a go at this one. But let's see. They go down the back straight for the 60th time of asking here today out of 85 on the day. It has not been a long and difficult one for these guys, but it has been one marred by one particular crash down the back straight that we saw. Daniel Solo being pushed by Martin Kupau ended in a big pile-up for everybody, and there are only 11 cars remaining. Here we go, all of them coming down, 6 cars all at once. Johansson joins them, so nobody trying to steal a march on the Force Esports duo up front. Now, hit your marks. Very, very important not to be reversing here, Stefano. You're going to be out the back.
Yeah, pretty much. So you have to have a picture-perfect stop here. I'm not 100% surprised that Johansson decided to go with them. He has nothing to lose, so might as well come in with these guys to have a little bit of more fun and maybe even have a little bit of a say in who is going to win this race. And there you go, look at that. That is, I think that is Allard. No, that's actually Page.
Well, Daniel Page has gone out and stolen a march on everybody here. The other four now come out together, side by side between Allard and Storr. We'll see. They better get themselves sorted out quite quickly because otherwise they're going to be in a bit of trouble. But Daniel Page now gets away from the rest. 2.5, 3 seconds is the gap as Fournier takes the lead. He didn't come down with Gunnarsson for some reason, but Page is in the lead, and importantly, he has Johansson up in front here, so he's not exactly on his own. He's not exactly going to be monstered down by these guys, but you would expect, since there's double the cars back here, they might well get to him. Here's Broström, done exactly what you said. He followed Aronsson for so long. He was saving fuel throughout that entire time, and now he's had that shorter pit stop. He's out in front of his teammate, and they're going to go and try and chase down this race win.
Yeah, exactly. So this is gonna be interesting because look at who is in front of Daniel Page. Yes, it is the number 4 of Kim Johansson, and he, as I said, might have to say in this win, because if he can actually be fast enough to keep the guys of Broström and Allison in behind, and if Daniel Page can work nicely enough together with that 4, Daniel Page might be the winner of this race with just 23.5 laps to go.
Absolutely, but there's a long way to go until that is going to be crowned. Fournier continues on his own out front, by the way, trying to... well, he's got his 5 points for leading, I suppose, but either way, he's only joined us last round, so not too much point worrying about that too much. Storr looks like he's going to catch up to the back of Aronsson here as well. He's going to have the help of Allard as well. There's the pit stop times, and you can see clear as day why Daniel Page is out front here, because he's had a 5-second shorter pit stop than we saw for the likes of Broström, Aronsson, Storr and Allard.
And with the 2 cars in behind now catching the Force Esports cars, that pretty much means that Daniel Page is gonna get caught, because also I forgot that Daniel Page 19 actually has a little bit of rear end damage that obviously doesn't allow him to push as well as he might want with that number 4. And so he is basically not even able to get to the back end of that 4 to really give him any push whatsoever. So these guys are down about 4 or 5 kilometers on the straights, and that means that these guys now for 3rd place, Broström, Allison, Storr and Allard, are all going to close in, and we're going to have a nice 5-car fight till the end.
We are indeed, but beating Linus Broström, I think, is going to be very difficult. Alexander Aronsson is going to be helping him a lot. Obviously, Storr and Allard are going to be trying to get on the outside, but as you said there, Daniel Page is not going to be great at pushing, given the rear end damage that he's got. So, I mean, technically it's 2 against 2 there, really, you could say. Though he might be able to offer up a little bit of assistance. We'll wait and see, because we've not reached that moment yet. We've still got 22 laps to go, 21 at the line. The gap is a second. This gap is coming down, and I think even if Daniel Page wasn't damaged at all and had a completely fantastic race car, the fact that there's double the cars behind is really not helpful. Broström is going to sail past these guys, surely. Looks like they might have to split the difference through the middle, 3 wide through 1 and 2. Broström is going to go to the front. Johansson, by the rules, has to get out of the way here because he's a lap car and has to pull to the outside when the leaders are coming up on him. So he slots in now. That might not quite be within the rules, but he's gone for it anyway. He slots into line just behind Daniel Page. So Broström now retakes the lead.
Yeah, I think Johansson forgot a little bit about Allard, because he slotted in between Page and Allard, and then Allard had to a little bit of a brake check there for him, and I think there was also a Swedish sorry between the two. But yeah, either way, these 5 are there to fight it out, and I have to say, big thank you to the Ford, because he did what was right and moved out of the way of everybody, moved out of the way of the 12, obviously, the 19. Obviously, that meant that he is going to lose the lead with the 3 cars just moving past. But this gives us a great spectacle with the 5 cars remaining in this race.
Yeah, what can they do about Broström, who leads with 20 to go here at Talladega? These laps are going to be reeled off very, very quickly, and it's going to fly by, to be honest. Not for Broström, who's going to be nervous looking in the rearview mirror more than he'll be looking out the front at the moment, but it's going to be sailing past for those guys trying to get through on him right now. We know that Eracing and Broström are talking to each other right now. They're in communication with each other. And surely Eracing is just going to be helping out Broström in the rest of this race. But what can the likes of Gabriel Storr do at the moment? And at what point, now here we go already. I was about to say, what point are we going to see the first moves made? But Daniel Pay's not waiting around. Wants to look on the outside there, but Gabriel Storr wasn't really having any of it. The bit of a gap is open now. And I think, by the looks, to me, it just looks like they're trying to organise things at the moment and get the right run so that they can really have a go at this sort of race lead.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit confusing right now what these guys are going to try. I mean, they have several options, obviously. Just stay behind and basically do nothing, which is one of the options that you can have. But what is this 19 and 302 gonna do? Because there goes Hagman once again, 1 lap down, so he's now 3 down. But yeah, the 19 and the 302, they're most definitely gonna work together, Page and Allard. Are they also going to incorporate the 16 into their plans if he goes high? Will they follow him? That is the question. Because obviously, if you have 3 cars up top, the 2 cars down low will be slower and you're going to get past. But if Storr then drops these 2 guys, what will then happen? Because we most definitely know the 19 has a little bit of rear end damage that does slow him down if he's in clean air. That also means that he's not going to be able to push as well as he might want to if he's behind another car. That's what we saw with the 4 when those 2 were together. So in all togetherness, you might actually see that just because of that little bit of damage on the 19, Broström might actually be safe from any attacks in behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you could be right. I hope that that's not going to be the case, because I don't want to see them at least try and fight this one out. But for the moment, Storr looks pretty settled to the bottom and even below the double yellow line there. You're not allowed to pass below the double yellow line. I think that's pretty widely accepted rule. But certainly looking on the inside, and sometimes they do fade up towards the right-hand side of the road just a little bit. So there is a small opening, but very rarely do you see moves made when the people are already on the bottom anyway. Very rarely do you see people try and sneak down the inside, because it often just ends in disaster. So they often decide not to. But Storr looks like he's getting a little bit more agitated here and might have a look. As you can see, there's cars everywhere at the moment on the back straight. Blicht and also Solo are up there on the high side at the moment. That's Gunnarsson going a lap down for the first time. Fournier is going to be going a lap down for the first time shortly as well. There's the 2 who are going 4 laps down now. Looks like they're still going to be classified 4 points though, which is a good thing as they go over the line again. And yeah, let's see. I think that's, yeah, there is Fournier going a lap down for the first time. So we're going to have 5 cars on the lead lap here very soon. They're all going to be in this camera shot right here. Johansson is not here to interfere with things either. Not that he was before, but not here to interfere with things either. And to me, it just looks like Gabriel Storr's getting a little bit more excitable and might be able to go on the attack slightly on the outside line. Let's wait and see if Daniel Page can really supply him with a good enough push though on the outside line. That's the real key here.
Yeah, one thing is for sure, Allison, he won't move up top. He is gonna be supporting his teammate all the way through here. So it's all gonna be the 16, 19 and 302. What are they gonna do? Storr, Page and Allard. It's all in their hands, but do they have the cards necessary in their hands to be dealing out the winning hand of this cards game? Well, we're only gonna see 14 laps to go. Right now they're patiently waiting to jump on that. And also I think I just spotted a little bit of damage also to the rear end of the 16 on the right hand side. Seems to be a little bit dented inwards. So even that Gabriel Stör car really not in tip-top shape.
No, unfortunately not, as Allard is unfortunately just briefly out of existence, but he's back into it again as we have 13 to go over the line. Hagman is overtaken once more as there's maybe some repairs going on as well as a final pit stop, but he needs to get out in front of Blick to get those 9th place points. The most hurtful thing for Hagman, I think, is going to be that he can't use this as his drop round. If you remember, we do have a drop round for this championship, and he won't be able to use this one as his drop round. He finished 11th while also leading a lap at the first round in Michigan, and that was 92 points. Here today, 9th place would get him 95, so this would count towards his total, and same for Blix as well, whose worst is 92 at the moment. He would pick up 91 today, so that he might be able to use this, but he's only really saving a point, if you see what I mean, because this is only 1 point worse than his lowest result so far either. So this is going to be very damaging for the championship of both of them, while Broström is going to go out to more than a 60-point championship lead.
Yeah, he's loving this right now. Obviously, it's never great to see your teammates be involved in such a big crash, but you have to also think about the championship, the prizes that are up for grabs here, and yeah, Broström most definitely smiling a little bit there under his helmet.
Well, Daniel Page getting impatient now with Gabriel Stör, who's not really challenging the front two at the moment. Ricard Allard is also trying to help out, but like we saw earlier, you need a huge push here to get anywhere on the outside line, and they haven't got that. They're not organised enough in the back three positions. Finally, Page has got a good run here. Has he got a good enough push from Allard? He needs to stick closer to Gabriel Stör if he wants to get in front, and they've got to be careful not to completely detach themselves from the front two as well while doing this, but it's a decent run on the outside line for Page now. He's in front, he's got his nose in front of Stör, who's not got a lot of help there at all. Has he got clear though? No, not quite, and Stör works his way back through on the inside line. Page on the very outside, whoops down to the inside once again. And all of a sudden those two have got a big gap up front. They've got a few car lengths, but there's going to be a big head of steam coming here for Gabriel Stör.
Yeah, maybe Stör might want to move up top and the 19 with him. Let's see. No.
No. Decides not to go for it. Why do you think it is that with 10 laps to go in Talladega, this race, he's got a chance of winning this, I guess, Stör, but why do you think he's not poking out of line and going for this? Is he preserving third place at the moment?
Yeah, basically, because kinda he knows that if he moves up top, the two in behind are not gonna move with him. So basically, he kinda is in the trouble spot of he is alone in this pack. The two cars in front are teammates, the two cars in the back are teammates. He is all alone. Here comes the 19 now with a big head of steam, but once again stalls out because of that damage. Stör still in that draft of the two cars ahead, so the 19 and 302 once again. Pat situation there on the outside, not going to be able to do anything on that 16 apart from lose themselves a little bit of space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not happening for them at the moment. Haraldson is in the prime position to help Broström out here. The final pit stops were executed absolutely perfectly for him, and indeed for Broström, I guess, as well, who's being pushed along right now. Might well be being pushed along to the most laps led as well, but either way, it's going to be more than 60, even if he doesn't get those 2 points. Those 5 points. He's still going to be more than 60 points in front with only 2 rounds to go. Considering their drop rounds are very, very similar in the front at the moment. You get 92, 96 and 92 for the top 3 right now. Those are very similar, so we're not going to see too much of a change in terms of that. with 2 rounds to go. Richmond and Charlotte both have to be negotiated for Broström, but he's certainly in prime position, in pole position to take this championship. He's in a great place.
Yeah, he is in an extremely great place right now. Obviously, Charlotte and Richmond, 2 completely different tracks, not only to this, but even to each other. Richmond, that is a driver track, and Charlotte, it's all about managing those tires. So it's going to come down to the very great end of the season. And yeah, I think Linus Broström, the guys in behind, are getting more active.
Well, we've not seen Storr show any signs, show any interest in going for the front 2. But suddenly he pokes his nose out, and maybe there's a moment coming up here in the next few laps. Rickard Allard with not a bad run onto the back of Page here, who's going to be able to push Storr if he wants to have a go. But Arulsson is pretty pressing on the pedal right now as well to push Broström to glory. And it's getting all very close here. 6 laps to go at the line. And they're all of a sudden, they're absolutely giving it their all, because for 4 of the cars in this train, it doesn't really matter whether they finish in first place or finish whether they finish in second place or whether they don't finish at all. So will be prepared. There are certain cars in this train prepared to risk absolutely everything here.
2 cars moving to the very bottom of the apron there. Great job by them to get out of the way and not interfere whatsoever with the 2. I think actually they just pitted out. That's why they were down there. Either way, 5 cars still at the top, 6 laps to go. Will we see a move by Gabriel Stör? Will we see something happening from Page and Allard? Well, yeah, I can only repeat myself. We're gonna see what happens.
Absolutely. 5 to go when we get to the line, and Allard is struggling to stay with these guys. He's just getting a little bit more speed now, although he's got to be careful not to completely drop himself here. And he might have just done that. He's losing pace here. He's losing time to the leaders. Daniel Page, I think, has slowed up slightly to try and keep him in the elastic band effect, but I think Rickard Allard has just made a terrible, terrible mistake. And he might have just lost the rear. He's closing back in again now. Has Daniel Page shot himself out the back, though? I don't think so. I think everybody's just going to be kept within, but Daniel Page there keeps the red car at the back in contention. Or does he?
This is a great setup here by
here we go.
Allard and Page, because they're going to come up with a big head of steam now onto the top 3 cars. They are going to use the slingshot to perfection maybe here, but stalls out a little bit here coming up to the 16, has to move up quite high, and look at that. They are not going to be able to make any moves happen. Block from the 16 comes in, or maybe just tries to get himself shot up to the front, and immediately the 24 also comes up with a little bit of a block himself. So once again, we are back to square one.
Yeah, I really thought there was going to be a huge run there, because I thought they would just accidentally kind of managed to get themselves out the back there, but that was a very well orchestrated move in the end that you spotted, and it could have been great for them, but it wasn't in the end really. So with 3 to go at the line, there is still the chance for those 3 in behind to do something here, but it's looking ever more unlikely with the laps that tick on by here. Storr on the outside line again. Arulsson, not only is he pushing Broström here, he's being the perfect teammate really, because he's also doing a little bit of blocking all at the same time as well, which is of course very legal in NASCAR and very often seen here at Talladega and Daytona as super speedways. You see a lot of blocking, and that's what Arulsson is doing right now. So not having to on the back straight on this occasion, because Storr is right behind. Daniel Page just briefly going on the outside line there to try and get something going, but it's really not happening for him at the moment. Only 2 laps to go when we get to the line. The start-finish line, of course, a little bit further round from the tri-oval that we're into right now. The chances for these guys diminishing with every metre that goes past here. It's looking less and less likely that they're going to be able to get through. Daniel Page still pushing. Allard behind.
If they want to have the win here, they need to cooperate with Gabriel Stör, who actually now moves up to the top side, and this might be the break that they needed. But look at that, 302 just can't get that speed to keep up with the 16 and the 19.
Finally alongside for the first time in about 20 laps, and Storr has got a good speed. Oh goodness, Storr might be able to steal this one right to the very end as Daniel Page is pushing him right now. This is unbelievable. On the outside line is working, and as we get the white flag for the final lap here at Talladega, they've got it. They're clear, and Gabriel Storr is in the lead, and Daniel Page wants it all. He's pushed the 16 to the front, and now all of a sudden he wants it all. 20. Oh, no! He goes around Daniel Storr. He goes around Daniel Page. Is taking the lead once again. Broström is on the outside line. This is the difference between 15 points and not. Broström's on the outside line. He's got no help at all. But Page, after pushing Gabriel Storr around, has also lost a bit of momentum. They're side by side running through 3 and 4. It's just between these two. It's a 2-horse race right towards the line. The white flag is out. There's only a few corners to go. The triangle to go. Outside line for Broström. Daniel Page is going to try and side draft him. He's going to dive to the bottom to try and take the win. They're going to slam into each other. Daniel Page has just got his nose in front. They're side by side to the line. Oh, Broström. Has he got it? I think he has. And he has. The 71 Linus Broström by 21 thousandths of a second is going to take it. Daniel Page has his heart broken at the end. That was a very, very exciting finish. Gabriel Storr is going to be absolutely heartbroken with how that ended up. I'm afraid everybody made it through without crushing. Broström just about got the victory. What a finale that was.
Yeah, just highly unlucky there for Gabriel Stör. He was leading the race going into the last lap, and complete heartbreak moment for him that gets turned around by the 19. People, that's why exactly you don't risk pushing through turns, because that's exactly what can happen.
It absolutely is. But Linus Broström doesn't care. He has won this race at Talladega, and he's gained a huge step up on his opponents in the championship. Eric Blicht and Marcus Hagman, involved in a crash halfway through this race, have lost a lot of points to him today, and so he takes over 60 points of a championship lead into the final 2 rounds. Richmond coming up in 2 weeks, Charlotte just after that. Let's have another look at this final lap here. This is what happened after the Gabriel Storr spin. This is how it all happened, Stefan, and as you mentioned, pushing through the corners, not what you need. But I have to say, I was surprised that this situation even arose at all.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that 19 went with the 16, but yeah, you can see their bump already going into the turn, and then just completely off-centered once again. Another bump goes below, and yeah, just not the picture-perfect driving from the 19 that you do need if you decide to push through the turns. You have to be 100% squared up with the car ahead, otherwise exactly situations like this arise. 19, he was really lucky to not get turned himself, because that could have been a hit to the quarter pedal, and that would have then also sent Daniel Page around. But what a drive that was from Broström to the finish. Picture perfect defense from the 19, but the 71 still had the top speed.
Just with the real final burst of speed to the line, and by half a car length, he's going to take it. Goodness me, Linus Broström, heart in his mouth throughout the entire final lap, I would imagine, as we did as well. It was a fantastic finish to a race that was single file for most of the second half, but in the end, a very fast finish from Linus Broström allowed him to take the victory ahead of Daniel Page. Alexander Aronsson third in the end, ahead of Rickard Allard, who slowed down to avoid that late crash. Gabriel Storr, the one who was spun around, very unfortunate to finish in 5th. Forneright managed to beat out Gunnarsson for 6th, ahead of Kimi Johansson with that penalty. He finished 2 laps down in the end. Marcus Hagman losing loads of points, 5 laps down in 9th. Eric Blicht, a very similar situation, 6 laps down in the 10th position. Daniel Solo was with him for much of the rest of the race in 11th, and then the retirees at the end. Eric Lundberg, Robert Erling, Martin Kapow, Tony Uvinen and Thomas Anderson rounding out your order after that race. Well, Stefan, there was a lot of single file throughout that race, especially the second half, but I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed those final couple of laps. The fact that it was so unexpected, I really thought that there wasn't anything going to happen there towards the end. The fact that it was so unexpected, I think, made it even more exciting.
Yeah, probably. It was a great show in the end. Yeah, as I said, it wasn't expected that they're going to cooperate with Stör, but I think it was kind of a situation that arose, and the 19 just had to take it, especially with Rickard Allard not being able to push him, because he always did drop far behind that 19. So in the end, a very great show that these guys once again put up, and I really can't wait for the next round of the season.
Absolutely. 2 weeks' time coming up here in Richmond. Well, what a fantastic race we've had here at Talladega. Drama, crashes, and a real fast finale as well. It was absolutely brilliant entertainment. I hope you enjoyed it at home, but the show is not over. We're going to be handing to the guys in the ESEN studio now to take on the post-race show after what was a fantastic race at Talladega. From all of us here at Racebot TV, though, it's goodbye for now and over to the post-race show.
And we're back to the post-race show here at Essen Studio in Stockholm, and what a ending of the race. I mean, drama in the beginning, a big crash took out a lot of drivers, and in the end we got these 5 drivers in the end, and just waited until the very last second before all that of the end game drama. And with us we got our 3rd place racer here tonight, Alexander Arvidsson. It's nice to have you with us. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good, and I'm quite happy with decent finish there in the end, and really happy that my teammate Linus managed to get the win there at the end.
You were running in the top in the beginning of the race after a great qualifying, and talk us through what was the game plan for tonight?
Well, the game plan was to control the race as much as possible, obviously by qualifying up front with most of our team, which we managed to do. And then I thought we controlled the race pretty well up until the first major wreck there, which unfortunately took out almost half of our team with Marcus, Thomas, and Robert there. And after that, it was just just for me and Linus to try to make the best of it from the front there, which we did in the end.
How do you change your game plan when something like that happens? I mean, in the first pit stop round, we saw Linus doing some mistakes on the pit road, putting him way back, and you were like alone for the team, fighting for the lead there. How What thoughts went through your mind at that position?
Well, there's really not much I can do, or that we could do from my perspective there with this car and the way it races at the moment with this drafting package. I mean, for me, it was just a case of trying to stay up front as long as possible. And if I would have been passed, I would have backed back or gone back to join up with Linus and try to push forward together. But that didn't happen, and yeah, it played out pretty well in the end.
Yeah, after the big wreck, you found Linus and worked with him throughout the race, but since you were the leader of the race, I suppose your pit stop that was a little bit longer than Linus's was because of that you were draining more fuel when you're leading the pack than being behind and can save a little bit.
Possibly, yeah, and also I was a bit more conservative entering the pits this time, as the previous stop I almost missed my box, so I thought that I needed to make sure that I hit it this time, which I did, and obviously I lost the lead, but then again I lost it to my teammates, so it wasn't all that bad in the end.
Not all that bad in the end. Alright, talk us through the last 2 laps, the incidents all around that, the drag race to the finish. We saw you change lane even though you were 5 or 6 car lengths behind Linus. Was that to help in the last draft against Page?
I'm not quite sure which point of the race you're referring to, but
The absolute last half of the race, last half lap of the race.
And the last lap of coming off turn 2, I think it was coming off turn 2, where they caught us on the outside, while me and Linus stayed on the inside, and side drafted me, pulling me back from Linus, and then obviously once they cleared Linus, then I think it was Daniel and Gabriel Gabriel got turned around, and he got his spun and hit my left rear quarter panel, sending me sideways as well, and I just managed to hang on to it, and then I just tried to follow in Linus' draft to try to give him a push across the line, which obviously I think I may have been able to do there to get him to win.
Amazing save doing that sideways run you had there, which obviously saved you and made you, or helped you to finish in this top 3 here tonight. Good job, Alexander. Is there anybody you want to thank before we carry on with the broadcast?
Yeah, I want to thank all my teammates, Linus, Thomas, Marcus, Robert, for a good job today, and also my car sponsors, Battle Riff. And I want to say Happy Father's Day to my father as well today.
Of course, it's Father's Day today, and congratulations on your 3rd place tonight.
Cheers.
Alexander Arielson saves the car after some late race drama here tonight. We will, in a couple of seconds, talk a little bit with Page, our 2nd place. What a drag race they had. Brostrom and Page to the finish line. Everything looked good for Page after that battle he had with Stö for a lot of laps, actually. And I think we will dig into that a little bit, because we saw the last 15 laps, the duel between them two. He was really trying to get past him, and but in the end, when Stö decided to go outside, we'll see if we got Mr. Page with us. Are you with me?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
Congratulations on the 2nd place tonight, or my condolences to the loss of your win tonight.
I tried, but yeah, it was Linus just got the side draft right at the end, so you just nabbed it.
21 thousandths of a second. That's the closest finish we had here in the European E-Racing League so far at least. And with this car, finishes like this I think will be quite rare though. But talk us through the fight you have with Gabriel Stö. I think it was you tried to pass him for like 15 laps in the end, try to get some help from Rickard behind you, and Rickard was a little bit over the place, so you didn't really got any like draft help from him. How was
so obviously like me and Rickard are sort of in the same team, and he got me in. This is my first race tonight, so but but as I said, my mic decided to turn off, so I couldn't communicate with him very well. So I was just with Gabriel. I was just sort of teasing him, really. That was all. I was just seeing what could happen. But these cars are, especially if there's 3 of them in a line and there's only 2 behind, you're never going to get past. But he did move up on the last or second to last lap, I can't remember, and then yeah, there was a bit of an accident, which I have apologized. There was no intent there.
Well, in the end of the race, you need to do what you need to do, and I mean, in Gabriel's situation, you want all the push you can get to pass through to eventually, hopefully get a win. Also, but nice racing, and that drag race with Broström for half a lap. Talk us through that. How did you think? How did you plan out to not give him the side draft, and what was your strategy there?
So, but this is probably only sort of the second race I've sort of done with these new gen cars, the next gen cars. So, I've noticed that the side drafts is very strong. But I probably could have done more towards the end. I tried to pin him up against the wall, but it didn't really work too well. Well, almost got him. So.
Close call, and you were in the lead there for a short time and period. Congratulations on your second place position. How do you feel about Richmond? That's the next race on our schedule.
Well, yeah, I would love to carry on, but at the minute, this was only just a one-off because of my work schedule. I'm hoping to obviously maybe next season, if things change slightly, I could do a full season. But yeah, no, it was I thoroughly enjoyed it. So hoping to come back.
Is there anyone you want to thank before we carry on with the broadcast?
Just Rickard, really, just to for getting me involved in this race. So yeah, thank you, Rickard.
Thank you too, and congratulations on your second place tonight.
Thank you.
A drag race to the finish line in the end for Linus Broström was what got him the finish in the end, but as his teammate Alexander was talking about a little bit earlier, they tried to qualify well, they tried to control as much of the race as they could, which they did in the beginning, but also he did some mistakes on the pit road. We are going to ask him a little bit more about that, how his mind went through it and how he planned to overcome it. A big wreck in the beginning, on about lap 25, probably saved a lot of hard work for him. Here he is, Linus Broström, our winner at Talladega. Hi Linus, how are you?
Hey, yeah, I'm great. That was a bit of a snoozer all the way through, but that finish made up for it. That was even if I'd have been second there, I don't think I would have been too bothered, because that racing towards the line there was just amazing, and I'm just happy I came out first and was able to work the side draft as good as I did.
We talked a little bit with your teammate Alexander Arlsson. He sends his congratulations to you for this victory, and he told us that you were planning to control the race as much as possible by starting off with qualifying well, but what did you do in the first pit stop? What happened there?
I told all the guys coming into the boxes, remember to brake early, don't slide your tires, and I braked late and slid my tires. Ended up too far forwards and too far left, and you know, it is what it is. The brakes didn't really work like I expected them to. For some reason they locked up and I ended up at the back. That changed the outlook of the race a little bit, but I think I would have been somewhere around where Marcus was when that crash happened, so in a way it kind of helped me. It put some people in other positions, so obviously it created that whole situation, but I think in the end, looking at the end result, I think that was pretty much the best thing I could have done, because I would have had to take a longer pit stop than the others anyway, because I'd have used more fuel being in the lead, so I would not have come out in the lead anyway. So I would have been third, fourth somewhere and been right in the middle of that crash, so I think my strategy to run long in the pit stall and end up at the back is what saved me and eventually got me the win here tonight.
You can call it strategy if you want to. Feeling a little bit of the getting some knowledge about the concrete on your pit stall for later pit stops, maybe. I don't know. Tell me, how did you pass for the win tonight? I mean, the last half of the last half lap of this race was a complete drag race between you and Paige. Talk us through that.
Well, I'm just gonna try and look it back here. We come into the white flag, and for some reason they got a massive run on the outside, and I thought they were 3, but Rickard wasn't with them, so I'm not really sure how they got that massive run, but they were just pushing. And then when they crashed off turn 2, I was lucky enough to get around Gabriel, and Alex somehow managed to get through as well, saving that slide. And then it was just trying to side draft, and as soon as I got to side draft, move out to not give him the side draft, and then obviously he'd come up and side draft me back, and then I'd go down and side draft him. But I saw on the replay I was a lot closer to him when I did my side drafting than he was. And then on that last side draft he got closer to me until he was right next to me. So when he was ahead of me and I started side drafting, he was still right on my door, so I could just follow him down the track, as well as having Kim Johansson, I think it was the lapped car, about a second ahead, which helped me somewhat as well. But because of how late he moved down after he did that last side draft on me, I was able to stay on his door the whole way until I started moving past him. And as soon as we were side by side, I just tried to move away from him, but then he did the same and followed me, but that was too late. So had a bit of a door bang there right as I passed him towards the end, but it was very clean racing there. I'm not really sure what happened between him and Gabriel, but the racing towards the line there was amazing. And I think if he'd have moved down a little bit earlier from that last side draft he did on me, he probably would have had it. But I was able to stay on his door the whole way and somehow stop his car from moving forward pretty much, and just managed to get him right before the end. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to win when they came around as there in the white flag, but I'm happy with the way it turned out, and thankfully Alex was able to come home P3 as well.
Well, a drafting lesson by you and Paige here tonight for everybody who looked at this broadcast. Is there anybody you want to thank before we carry on, Linus?
First of all, Kappa Bar and Battle Rift, the team sponsors for this series, and then all the teammates. Alex for doing a great job the whole race with the teamwork there and pushing all the way to the end. Marcus and Robert was with us there early on as well. Unfortunately, they got caught up in that wreck on the back straight, and I haven't even seen what happened there. I guess it was just bump drafting gone wrong, which happens here. So no one's fault really, but you know, it happens. Unfortunately, more than half the field I think got taken out in that. But I hope we gave a good show towards the end as well. And then Thomas as well, who showed up, unfortunately dropped back early, and then something happened. I'm not going to comment on that because I haven't seen it at all, so I'll watch that back. And then obviously the whole team for the support and everybody working with us for the Swedish League as well, and you guys for putting on the show, RaceSpot for doing a great broadcast and well. And then last, I want to send a shout out to my dad and wish him a happy Father's Day as well. So thanks to everybody.
Happy Father's Day to Björn. Thank you, Linus. Congratulations to the win here at Talladega and taking over the championship lead here in the European Eracing League.
Thank you.
Obviously, a Linus Broström day today, and amazing race in many ways, I'd say. I mean, at Talladega, every super speedway, there's always a big one. We had ours in lap 25, 26 somewhere, which literally removed every car except the top 5. So the mid of the race was pretty much the guys in the top 5 trying to decide who's gonna lead and wait until the very last second, and then we got all the drama that we've been waiting for, and that is super speedway racing. You have to position yourself in the best position to win, or try to do anything to win. We saw Gabriel moving out in the last lap to pass the leaders of Broström and Haraldson, but the incident with Paige totally flipped everything over for him. I think he came out as 5th anyways, because they've lapped the whole field. So it was like high risk, or like low risk but high reward situation for him, as well as for Paige. And at the end there, leading in the last lap at the super speedway might not be where you want to be, but this time Brostrom lost the lead at the last lap, but managed to take it back. So if Gabriel had made his move half a lap later, everything might have ended up completely different. Anyhow, next race will be at Richmond, and we'll be back in this channel in exactly 2 weeks. Richmond is a short track. It's 0.75 miles, so the drivers will use brake and lift off a little bit more. It will be more of a driver's track, and since it's smaller, we will see a lot of more traffic, I'd say. So an interesting race awaits us at Richmond in 2 weeks, but this was everything that we had for you at Talladega. My name is Jonas Force. With me in the studio here at ESAN, we had Niklas Falk as producer. He'd done an amazing job, and we had some help from Mr. Mouse, Krister Schoenbeck too, and a big thanks to our friends at RaceBot for doing the commentary tonight. Thank you, and see you in 2 weeks.